Welcome back to Takeout. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. The North Carolina Senate race matchup between former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper and former chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Whatley. Michael Whatley joins us now from Charlotte. I have to get out of the habit of calling you Mr. Chairman, Michael. If I can call you Michael, I'll do that. And just so everyone knows, Roy Cooper's been invited on this program. He's welcome here, as is the former chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley. So as I look, and control and pull up the full screen we have on the results from last night, 64.6% for you, Michael. And then 4 other Republicans who ran against you got about 30%. Is your first task to consolidate the Republican vote that didn't come your way?
You know, that's going to be very important for us. We need to be unified going forward. And thankfully, we are unified going forward. And I've had a number of those candidates already reach out and let me know that they're going to be supporting us as we move forward and communicating with their voters to have them on board. Look, the fact is, the Republican Party in North Carolina is completely unified in understanding we have to win this race. We do not want a card-carrying member of the woke mob in Roy Cooper representing this great state. What we want is a conservative champion who's going to be an ally for President Trump in the Senate.
One of your slogans is Radical Roy. I've talked to some people in North Carolina who say, yeah, that's alliterative. It has a kind of punchiness to it. But they also say, look, Roy Cooper's been elected statewide 4 times. North Carolinians have made up their mind about him. You don't think that's true?
Well, look, I think that there's a lot of conversations that we need to have about Roy Cooper's record. We need to talk about the votes he took when he was a legislator. We need to talk about the vetoes that he cast when he was a governor, as well as his executive actions. Roy Cooper is the most soft-on-crime governor in the history of North Carolina. He put policies in place that allowed criminals to get back on the streets again and again and again. We're going to hold him accountable for that. Roy Cooper vetoed multiple different tax cut bills that were balancing the budget, as well as the burden on North Carolina citizens. We're going to have a conversation about that. Roy Cooper is on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue that we see in this state right now. We're going to have a conversation about his record, and we're going to talk about what I want to do, which is create jobs, raise wages, lower costs, and keep our kids and communities safe.
Do you believe, Michael, that in the summertime you're going to be running in a race that is still defined by the war in Iran?
You know, I think that's going to be an issue set for us, right? And I think that, thank God President Trump stood up and is taking steps right now to make sure that Iran is not going to have nuclear weapons capacity, that they're not going to be able to build intercontinental ballistic missiles that can deliver payloads into Europe or even the United States, and they are no longer going to be able to export terrorism around the world. The American people strongly support the president's agenda in Iran and are glad that he's going to step forward and make sure that they are not going to be a threat to the United States.
Let me rephrase that. Do you expect that this will be an issue that you'll have to deal with in late summer? Meaning, do you believe this war will be, whatever its duration, wrapped up by then and you'll be talking about something else? Or do you think it still might be an overhang for both you and Roy Cooper to talk about?
Well, we'll certainly see how long it's going to take. And I think the president is going to stay on mission until it's done. I don't think that the intention is for this to be a forever war by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's not even a war. It was a very targeted series of strikes to take out Iran's capacity to build, intercontinental ballistic missiles and deliver them, as well as their nuclear weapons capacity, which need to be taken out.
When you think about this race, and you think about it in the context of this midterm cycle, there is plenty of evidence in special elections around the country that Democrats have tapped into some kind of enthusiasm. That's a conversation that I encounter wherever I travel. And when I talk to Democrats and Republicans in lots of states that are going to have either contested governor races or Senate races or House races, what's the atmosphere as you encounter it?
Well, what I'm seeing all across North Carolina is people want better jobs. They want bigger paychecks. They want lower costs, and they want their communities and their kids to be safe. And so those are the issue sets that we're talking about across North Carolina. President Trump carried North Carolina 3 different times. I was part of his team in all 3 of those elections. And we know how to win in North Carolina, and we know the issue sets that the voters care about.
And when you say Roy Cooper was, in your words, the most soft-on-crime governor in North Carolina history, it sounds like that is going to be your very first front line of attack, crime.
Yeah, it's absolutely a very significant issue for us. The fact is that Roy Cooper put policies in place, such as cashless bail and pretrial release, that set up a revolving door and allowed criminals to be back on the streets again and again and again. You know, every Monday we are putting out a digital post. We call it Mugshot Mondays. We're highlighting criminals that have been released 40, 50, 60, 80 times or more. You know, the fact is that Roy Cooper released over 4,000 criminals that from prison because he didn't want them getting COVID, including 51 who were serving life sentences. So, you know, we need to make sure that people understand Roy Cooper spent more time, you know, fighting for hardened criminals than he did for their victims.
Do you expect to debate Roy Cooper, and do you welcome President Trump to campaign with you?
Yes and yes. We certainly hope that we're going to have a debate against Roy Cooper. I think that he has a lot that he needs to answer for over the course of his term as governor. President Trump is absolutely a benefit to us here in North Carolina. He delivered this state 3 straight times, and his agenda, his common sense, you know, America First agenda is something that the North Carolina voters support. They want to see this economy rebuilt. They are glad that our borders have been restored and that we are taking drugs and criminals off the street. They also want to make sure that America is going to be respected. And when it comes to, you know, protecting our interests and allies around the world, North Carolina is the tip of the spear. We have thousands upon thousands of men and women in uniform who serve here. We have 740,000 veterans, the more than any other country or state in the country. So this is an issue set where President Trump is very strong, and we're going to be running on.
Former RNC Chairman Michael Whatley, it's going to be one of the most closely watched Senate races in the country. And again, Roy Cooper is always welcome on this program. Mr. Chairman, thank you.